the you want to start at AFC and then go NFC?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Let's do it, man. So first game, our boy Lamar.
Oof.
Him and Derrick Henry cooked the Steelers.
Oh yeah, man, it wasn't even close.
Yeah, it ended up 28-14, but it wasn't that close.
No.
It was 21-0 at halftime. Derrick Henry dominated. He had 186 on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Lamar had 81 on the ground and looked super relaxed all game.
Yeah, he sure did. First half, they just put it on them. And the Pittsburgh, what was impressive to me was Baltimore's defense. Pittsburgh couldn't move the ball, and they don't have a lot of weapons, but they couldn't do anything. They weren't. Yeah, there was there was some weird stat about their first downs versus like touches by Derrick Henry or something like that.
Yeah,
they had less first downs than he had rushes
in the first half. Probably. I mean, I think they only had like a couple first downs in the first half. I was a little surprised that nowhere in the last, because I think they're on a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised that nowhere in the last 5 weeks did they even really try Justin Fields out for a game or two. You know, like, I guess they beat the Browns. They're on a 5-game losing streak. But
they brought him in a little bit there in the first half.
I guess it was a 5-game losing streak. It was one play, though, right? He had through one pass?
He had a handful of plays throughout the whole game. I think they brought him in. He ran the ball a couple times, but yeah, it wasn't nearly like, I think it would have been fun to see them go to him like 30% of the time. Like really do like a dual quarterback game. Or just play him, like we talked about the first few weeks. Try to get him running on the outside, throw some screen passes, maybe something simple, but he's not a bad player, man. He's a backup NFL quarterback,
Yeah, or I mean, if you had a good offense, like he played for the Bears in kind of an incompetent offense and organization. I feel like if he had good players around him, maybe he could be a starter, someone who could use the weapons well. But just some obvious throws he'll miss. Yeah, in their 5-game losing streak, the Steelers have scored 13, 17, 10, 17, and 14.
Yeah,
so they never cracked 20.
Mike Tomlin has lost. He's 0-5 in the first round in the last 5 seasons. It's rinse and repeat, man. It's winning season, losing the first round, 5-year extension.
Well, I text you.
You can't hate the guy, though. I like him, but it's the same result.
Yeah. It's like I text you and my brother. He is the Bill Belichick of Jason Garrett's.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. That's clutch.
That's the greatest ever, kind of above average coach.
Yeah.
Baltimore looked good. Pittsburgh, you're cooked. Cancun, baby.
Cancun.
Most surprising one of the weekend for me was Texans Chargers. And the reason this surprised me was how well the Chargers started in their first couple drives, and then it just all went away. The game changed really on one play, that big third down where the ball, Justin Fields, CJ Stroud fumbles it, snap, but he gets it, picks up the first down, eventually leads into a touchdown, changes the game. Instead of it being a 6-0 game where the Chargers have the ball, then it's now 7-6, and from there, the Chargers did nothing offensively.
Yeah, and that pick six was a huge momentum shift. Back-to-back picks.
He had 4 in the game.
He had 4. The crazy stat was he had more picks in that game than he did the entire season. He had 3 picks all year, and then he had 4 in that game. The last one was a throwaway, but
still,
3 of them were legit. One or two. That third one might have been just a bobbled catch, but anyways, their offense they couldn't do anything.
No,
the Texans' offense, Joe Mixon did just enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Texans' defense is so good. Like the Texans' offense has been so problematic that you kind of underrate the Texans' defense because the Texans' offense they're not very good right now. Yeah. It's just not clicking.
Yeah,
Stroud's missing, but their defense is phenomenal. They pressured Herbert on 19 of 36 dropbacks, over 50%. And Herbert only completed 3 of 15 when he was pressured for 103 yards.
Dang.
So, and he had, of course, 2 interceptions while being pressured. So their block rate, everything looked bad. I think what do you think of Justin Herbert? Because the talent seems to be there. He's had great weapons around him before, but his 2 playoff games include a 27-point loss, or losing a 27-point lead, that choke against Jacksonville, and then this 4 interception game.
I don't know. I mean, I think you kind of nailed it at the beginning of the year, because the last, I guess, first few years of his career, he was such a gunslinger. Mm-hmm. But now with Harbaugh, it's like that more balanced run, pro style kind of offense. I think he's a good quarterback. I mean, he's definitely got an arm on him. It's just, I don't know. Just has to get a good run. Maybe it's not his time to win yet. So I would keep him around though. I think he's good.
Well, he's got a big contract, so he ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you rank him? Some people think he's elite.
Tier 2. He's tier 2.
Yeah. That 2.2, 2.5.
Yeah.
People were comparing him to Dak. But I mean, like, Dak's won 2 playoff games.
True.
So I mean, it's 2-5 or 2-6, whatever, but it's still 1-2.
Yeah.
All right, and then I don't want to spend too much time on Bills Broncos. Remember when I said I thought it was going to be closer because I thought the Broncos were going to run the ball and keep it close, and they did that on the first drive, and then after that it was all Josh Allen. Check this clip out, and really for me, let's start it up.
Big play here.
There we go, and I want you to watch the offensive lineman here on the bottom of the screen, number 73, okay?
Okay.
Play here. Trying to go up top for it.
He wants to run for it, Jim. He wants to just go get it with his legs. He's trying to find
it. Wasn't there, so now he's got to throw it deep to the end zone. And was that caught? Yes!
Yeah, so I think
big play here. Trying to go up top for it.
He wants to run for it, Jim. He wants to just go get it with his legs. He's trying to find it.
Wasn't there, so now he's got to throw it deep to the end zone. And was that caught? Yes! Ty Johnson scrapes it off the ground above the ground.
I'm curious if there's a little coaching there that's like, hey, you're more likely to get a hold if you keep trying to block while he's scrambling around.
Oh yeah.
Like, just stay in your spot. You're huge. If somebody runs into you, that's great. Or let him run to you. Let Josh Allen run to you. That could be.
I agree with that.
That could be something.
That's pretty smart and deep because, when the quarterbacks run around, you get the holding call.
Yeah.
Pretty clever.
Try my best. All right, that's the AFC. Who's the NFC teams? I thought you had them on the script thing, but I can't see it.
Well, yeah. So we got Packers, Eagles, we got Commies and Bucks, and the Sunday night game was Rams and Vikings. I thought we'd start with a little Packers, Eagles, and just to make this about the Cowboys, the Packers looked horrible, and this just shows how bad the Cowboys were. Now, I do think that opening call was a bad call. And it's weird because, there's the opening kickoff, the guy fumbles, he recovers it. From the sky cam, you can clearly shows he had the ball, had possession. He had it for, I don't know, several seconds because it was in slow-mo.
Yeah.
Eagles guy runs, hammers him, strips the ball out. But he clearly had the ball, clearly shown. But the problem is the NFL won't use all the cameras that they have access to because their rule is it has to be available in all stadiums. So because, let's say, Cleveland doesn't have access to Skycam, therefore no one can use Skycam for replays. It's the most ridiculous thing, and it led immediately to an Eagles touchdown. They were clearly the better team. I think they would have won the game anyway, but it's kind of ridiculous that you have a multi-billion-dollar league where each franchise to buy one is going to be at least $3 to $5 billion.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, we can't use that camera to get the call right. It's a bit ridiculous.
Think it'd be better to make them have the camera instead of...
I think the rule itself is stupid. Whatever cameras you got, you should be able to use.
Got it.
This clearly showed him recovering the ball.
That's a more free market approach, I'll say.
Yeah.
Which I'm not against that.
If you think your team gets screwed by the refs, put as many cameras as you can in there.
I get it, though. Yeah, but I agree with you, too. You should buy what you... Yeah, maybe that's what it is, because then it's the Belichick thing. They're like, well, can't have too many cameras, wanting other teams. So, yeah, the Eagles flew, I'll say it like that. They did what they were supposed to do. I was thinking the Packers may pull it out. They sounds like they want Love to be more vocal, which whatever that means.
Man,
they just they weren't ready for the Eagles. Eagles are too good.
It's crazy to think that last year the Packers, they had the 49ers. They could have easily won that game. I would argue should have won that game. Like they blew their opportunity. It was right there for them to take it, and they missed. And then Jordan Love has taken a huge step back. He has more multi-interception games this season, 7 than anybody. 7 multi-pick games.
It's a lot.
And yes, and this one I think he had 2, and he had a fumble as well, if I'm remembering correctly. So we're going to talk pretty soon about. I was going to say we're going to talk pretty soon about quarterbacks being overpaid. He might be one where you had first half of last year he was bad, second half he was great, so they paid him on that, and he kind of looked more like the first half.
Yeah, board man got paid. So
that's right. Oh, speaking of a board man, I assume you saw this. Number one,
AJ Brown
selling
showed
book.
you the great block he had before
AJ Brown
involved in the pass game.
Inner Excellence.
The name of the book is Inner Excellence.
Like I was saying to y'all,
at home. How about that little inspirational
he could have easily had it on the tablet.
You read Inner Excellence yet?
I feel like,
but he went with the paperback, like a real one.
I respect that.
Pulled up with the book. He was smart. He didn't pull the LeBron where he's always reading the first page. He turned in the middle of the book. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, reading leadership books on the side of the game, reminding himself knowledge is power.
Stay focused.
The more we know.
Yeah. Reset your mind.
Yeah. So, proud of them. Yeah. Dagger in the heart for Baker.
It was, man.
Or should I say dinker in the heart?
Doink. Well, it took a minute for the game to get going. We were saying this would be a high-scoring game. It had, I think, the highest over-under of the week.
Yeah.
And first quarter ended 3-0. I was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
That was a little disappointing.
Kick it.
But Jaden Daniels turned it on. He was their top running. He was their top rusher as well as obviously quarterback. But that shows more of how well the Bucs did against the run.
Yeah.
And man, but he 24 of 35, 268, 2 touchdowns, some real clutch throws.
And just he was clutch on their last drive too. On the last 2 drives. I was very impressed. I didn't realize how many snaps he took in college.
Yes.
He had like 40 plus starts or something like that. Because he was he Arizona State before LSU?
I think that's right.
Yeah, it might have been Arizona State. He's got so much experience, and it's kind of like the Dylan Gabriel thing, like you were talking about. It's almost better to go into the league with having played 45, 50 games in college. It's insane.
Do you know Bill Parcells' rules for quarterbacks when he was coaching?
No.
So when he was drafting and evaluating a quarterback, he put these rules out. His rules were 3 years a starter, senior in college, graduate from college if he could.
Yeah.
Start 30 games, win 23 games, post 2-to-1 touchdown ratio.
Wow. I think that's a great standard to have. Because you're most likely going to do well. I can think of
the experience. Yeah.
And if you got the body type and you're tall enough, it's going to work. So,
well, there's a lot of guys, not to bring it to Sam Darnold too quickly, but like a guy like Sam Darnold didn't have a ton of starting experience, if I remember right.
Or
in college.
Who's the third string on the quarterback or on the Cowboys?
Oh, Trey Lance. Yeah, that was a huge,
Trey Lance, same
huge one.
One solid year, but
sophomore. Yeah, Darnold only started 2 years.
Dang,
so he wasn't bad.
Yeah, not terrible.
Not terrible. But yeah, Commanders looked really nice.
Commanders did their thing. It was sad to see the Bucs
did their things. Yeah,
just happened.
It happens. And then the game of the night, old Sam Darnold called that shot. You pointed to the upper deck. Knocked it out of the park. The real Sam.
I had to be right on that. Like the last 2 weeks, he just kind of looked. He didn't look very good. He looked back to his old days, and that's gotta suck for him going into the offseason.
Oh my goodness,
for his mental, because he had such a good year, and then even in that first half when I texted y'all and I was like, he really wasn't having a bad game. He had the fumble and he had the pick, but he was still like 11 to 13 for 115 and a touchdown. He just had those 2 turnovers. It was just the bad was bad is what happened. But yeah, I think that was what I was afraid of. I was like, they're not going to be able to make a deep playoff run probably because of him. That's when you want like a Kirk Cousins or somebody. You're like, okay, they didn't have a fantastic year, but I'll take them in this round of the playoffs.
Little more experience.
Yeah.
For those moments.
Has his feet on the ground a little more grounded in those kind of tough situations. That's why I like that's what the Rams were. I mean, Stafford, obviously, he's got a little bit of experience. Lost a lot in Detroit, but Super Bowl champion. And that team is now on their 3rd or 4th year together, like the core. They've also got, Nakua now. So,
dude, balled out.
Yeah.
Incredible.
They looked great. Their defense was, riled up and very impressive. So they were the shocker team week 1 for me.
How well they played after all the distractions from the fire. Yeah. Here's some notes I had on the game. First of all, I would question the move of the Rams resting their starters in Week 18 because they ended up dropping down to the 4 seed. Turns out they're geniuses, and they had Minnesota's number. Minnesota lost to 2 teams this year. Minnesota lost to Detroit twice and to the Rams twice. So Sean McVay, like you said, is one of the best coaches in all of football.
Smart guy.
Total beatdown. They wanted the Vikings because they knew they could beat them, and they sacked Darnold 9 times, tying a playoff record.
9 times?
9 times.
9. That's great.
I saw an article on Forbes called "The 8 Days That Cost a Quarterback a Fortune." Yeah. And it was Detroit costing Sam Darnold a fortune because they were 14-2, needing to win 1 game to get the first round bye. And then they lose 2 straight. And they're probably going to franchise tag him.
Yeah.
But that's all right. One more thing, an interesting note. I thought for sure they were the best team to ever not win their division. But I saw this on Reddit. The best team to not win their division is from 1967, the Baltimore Colts. So they were coached by Don Shula, had Johnny Unitas. They were 11-1-2 and outscoring their opponents on average by 14 points. So ties didn't count to the record, so they technically had the highest winning percentage. But they were really unlucky because they ended up being in the division with the Rams, kind of bring it back to the Rams, and they go to the last game of the season. The Colts are 11-0-2, undefeated. The Rams are 10-1-2, and the Rams win. They thump them 34-10. There was no wild card, and so the 11-1-2 Colts miss the playoffs, and the 11-1-2 Rams make the playoffs. And you're like, oh, that's cool. So the Rams won the Super Bowl that year. No, not at all. So what had happened was the Rams didn't get home field advantage. At the time, it wasn't given to the best record. It was rotated. And that year, the Central Division champion, the Green Bay Packers, it was their turn to host. And so playing in the frigid weather in Lambeau, they lose 28-7. And then the next game is the Ice Bowl between the Packers and the Cowboys. So all that to say, without all that crazy stuff happening, we wouldn't have had the Ice Bowl. So
crazy.
A little fun NFL history story.
Huh.
Yeah.
Love to hear it. Well, the Rams won and they deserved it. So
they did.
Both times.
All right, so let's do a little who you got. We got Rams, Eagles. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think, obviously, the Rams are cooking. I think the Eagles are just that much more talented. They're not going to be able to hold their offense the way they did Minnesota. So I don't think it'll be a shootout, but I think it's like a 24-17 Eagles win. That's my guess.
Yeah, you and I are on the same page on that one, I think.
Yeah.
I think if the Rams can get a lead and force the Eagles to throw, then they have a shot.
Yeah.
But I think, agreeing with you, I think it's going to be a lot of running. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to ride Saquon, and the Rams are going to try to ride Kyren Williams a lot more than they have in recent weeks. Yeah, because I see this Eagles 27-17, 24-14.
Yeah.
Like close, but you kind of see who the better team is.
They're going to win it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, I think they're just a better team.
I agree.
And McVay will have it close, but no cigar.
Love McVay. Best looking coach in the league.
You asking me, or are you stating that as?
I'm asking you. It's between him and Matt LaFleur for me.
Yeah, I would say McVay's probably. I forgot about LaFleur. Yeah, he's got a tight cut. I did see the defensive coordinator for the Rams too. I was like, oh, he's got like a nice haircut and stuff too. Like, I was like, they're all jazzed up over there.
Every coach now is handsome. There's no more Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick's of the world.
Take McVay. Yeah, he's a pretty handsome guy.
Huh, you're into blondes. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, second game. Second game. In the game of 1st to 45, Commanders versus Lions.
I'm going to go Lions. I think the Lions come in and dominate. I don't know. So are they getting anybody from the defense back?
They got their linebacker back last week.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the.
They're starting to get more healthy. They're still pretty thin.
The Lions are the team to beat. They're going to come in there and they're going to pop them in the mouth. And I think this is what you said last week about Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. This is the moment where they're not. It's not their turn yet. It's not their time. So, and if they do go in there and shock them, I'll be very. I wouldn't be surprised from an offensive standpoint. From a defensive standpoint, is what I would be shocked by. I don't think they'll be able to stop the Lions' offense.
Yeah, spot on. That's exactly my take. So I agree. Okay. Lions by like 10. I think double digits for both the NFC games. By the way, this is my favorite week, the divisional round, because you usually have teams like this one, Texans, Chiefs.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be, the Texans know they're not as good of a team, but they got nothing to lose. No one expects them to win. They don't have the nerves of being one game from the Super Bowl. Like I feel like in the NFC and AFC championship games, sometimes you see little nerves like, oh my gosh, we're one game from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But Texans, Chiefs, who you got?
I'm going to let you go first.
All right. So the Chiefs won this game 27-19 earlier this year. Both defenses are fantastic.
Correct.
The big difference for me is on offense. The Chiefs, they get Hollywood Brown back.
Yeah.
They're just looking more healthy. They're looking good. They also, the Texans had lost. Go ahead.
I was going to say they haven't technically played in like 3 weeks.
A little bit of rest.
They had the bye week, and then they gave the game to the Broncos essentially in week 18. So, yeah, it's been 3 weeks since they've played. I almost forgot about them. Lord.
Yeah. Whoops. Oh, yeah, the back-to-back champs. The other thing, Tank Dell played in that game, and, of course, he's out for the season for the Texans. So I just don't think the Texans can score enough. I think the Chiefs, kind of like what you said, the Texans, this is their year to go this far.
Yeah.
And we'll see what their offense looks like next year.
I'm in agreement with you. I think it's going to be like a 13-10 game. Chiefs are going to win. It's going to be a defensive game for sure. Yeah. But if that means it comes down to somehow one possession,
Oh, who are you going to pick? Yeah.
I'm going to take Mahomes and the Chiefs. I think they beat them in a close one, but it's a low scoring game, but it's a this season Chiefs game, and they win somehow by 3 points.
Yeah.
Or 2.5.
That's how they do it. There's Taylor Swift crossing her fingers. And of course, now the biggest game of the week, Ravens, Bills. One of these quarterbacks is going to win a big game. One of them's going to continue to face the criticism. They can't win the big one. Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, James Cook, Josh Allen, no really big receivers. It's all running. I cannot be more jazzed for a game than this one.
Man, yeah, it's going to be...
Come to Dallas. Let's go to Buffalo Wild Wings and watch this one.
Dude, that'd be great. I may do that. I'm going to call this the Heartbreak Bowl, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be sad for either team that loses. It's exactly what you said. They both have the same narrative. Can't finish in the playoffs, can't get past the Chiefs, yada, 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 and now they're having to play each other.
And they're both playing so well. Like, both of them think, this is my year. And the Chiefs haven't played great. They're winning the games, but they haven't found that gear yet. So, yeah, both of them, it feels like this is my year.
Just to stick with the culture, I'm going to go vibes. And the vibes are telling me that I think the Bills are going to take it.
All right. Home game.
About, Josh Allen, there's something in his step this year. He's got a nice little flow going to him. His hair's, just kind of moving in the air a little easier. They feel light. They feel lighter.
Offensive lineman stop blocking just to watch him play.
Yeah, wow. Guys just watch him play.
Oh, my gosh.
He's throwing the ball in the back of the end zone.
On 4th and inches. Let me just gun this one to the end zone. And throw a running back on a wheel route.
The Bills fans have been through a lot. I mean, they have been through a lot.
First, you have to live in Buffalo.
You got to live in Buffalo. You had 4 Super Bowls. Was it 4 straight they lost, right?
Straight. The first one, they missed the field goal.
Gets the ball with 13 seconds left, somehow wins the game. I feel like they're due.
Yeah.
This may be the perfect setup for them to play the Chiefs and lose. But obviously I want Lamar to win. I'd prefer if they won, but I think that I'm going to give the nod to the Bills.
I just hope both teams have fun.
Yeah. Okay, Dad.
I am going Ravens because of Derrick Henry. Now, this all depends on the score. The Ravens offense changes drastically if they have the lead or if they're behind. And we saw this all season. When they had the lead, just like in this last game, Derrick Henry will rush for 200 yards. They just keep feeding him, and he gets better and better as the game goes on. But if they're losing, like in the Chiefs game earlier this season, he ends up with 13 carries. And you're like, you had 7 carries on the first possession, then you abandoned the run. So if Todd Monken and the Ravens offense can stay consistent, not panic, then I think they got a chance. I think they'll win it. It's just a matter of, for me, which quarterback steps up to the moment. Both, like you said, had playoff failures. Josh Allen's playoff failures haven't really been on him. He took the lead with 13 seconds left and then never saw the ball again. So
crazy.
With Lamar, he looked great against Pittsburgh, but he's played them so much. This is the kind of the game where you're like, okay, let's see if you got it, big dog.
Show me what you got.
Show me what you got. So I'm going to go Ravens by 3, but freaking Justin Tucker will probably miss a field goal.
He's so good, though.
Lamar?
Yeah.
Oh. So good.
All right. Well, there we go. Yeah, it's going to be a fun round. Every game is going to be great, I think, but that's going to be the best one.
It is. I'm amped for it. Go back to college?
Let's do that. Let's take a segue. Let's go segue with the Cowboys.
So Cowboys did the most Cowboys thing possible. They announced basically that they did not re-sign Mike McCarthy. And so during the Monday night game, at halftime, they all talked about the Cowboys, which is all Jerry Jones wants. He just wants to say things on Sunday or Monday that get you to stop talking about other teams and the playoffs and talk about him. The man's a marketing genius. I would not say he's a football genius. as far as GMing the team, as far as owning a team, he's a number one owner. Increases the value and just does amazing things with that.
Who is going to be the coach, man? We're talking prime time? Urban Meyer? No.
If it's Urban Meyer, I'm going to cry. So I'll tell you who the 5 that I'm getting vibes about and reading about.
Don't be Jason Witten. Please don't.
That's one of them. There's a good. I'm going to put this Jason Witten at 15% that he's head coach, 95% that he's on the coaching staff.
Okay.
So Jason Witten's like, oh, that's our Dan Campbell, and it's like, no, just because he was white and played tight end does not mean he can do the same thing that Dan Campbell's doing. We don't know anything about Jason Witten's coaching style, and like he was a fan favorite, but he was never like
alpha.
No, and he was never like the number one tight end in the league. Like people talk at him like he was Gronk or something. It's like we never made it past the second round. Gronk won Super Bowls, so like he was a great player, borderline Hall of Famer. If he gets in, if he doesn't get in, I'd be like, that's kind of whatever. But yeah, so I really don't want it to be Jason Witten because he fits really well into the Cowboys culture, and the Cowboys culture is the problem. So 15% chance, but gosh, I hope not. One I would like to see that won't happen is Robert Saleh. So he was fired from the Jets this year.
Yeah.
Culturally, he seemed like he had a good culture and a strong defense, which is where the Cowboys are severely lacking. After he got fired, they basically got worse at every statistical category, even though they traded for Devonta Adams and, kind of choked the game away. So he did not have a winning record, but he had good relationships with his players, and he did go 7-10 despite starting Zach Wilson. So, I mean, that's pretty good. It's not Bill Belichick leading Mac Jones to the playoffs, but it's pretty good. One I would be interested in seeing and kind of fits the narrative more so is Pete Carroll. So, good coach, proven winner, and football guy.
Old. He's getting old, though.
Yes, but that's part of what Jerry likes. They don't want people too innovative, typically, because
that's true.
Then that means Jerry's not in charge anymore, which is why they hired McCarthy in the first place, who is also a good coach, but the game's kind of passed him by. So kind of the same, I think, with Pete Carroll.
Gotcha.
Good coach, won a national championship, won a Super Bowl, turned the Seahawks, from an afterthought to a pretty consistent contender, even going from Russ Wilson to Geno Smith. So he's got good energy, turns the culture into a winning culture, and good defensive mind. So I wouldn't mind that as far as like you can do worse.
What about Brian Flores?
I don't like Brian Flores.
Yeah, I don't. He had like an attitude thing.
Yeah, not a huge Flores fan. I would prefer Aaron Glenn if we're going to go. That was one of the ways the Cowboys screwed up is by waiting so long. They missed out on interviewing Detroit's offensive and defensive coordinators. They could have interviewed Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn this past week, but because they waited so long, that window closed and they can't interview them until after the playoffs.
Ben Johnson I've heard Bears. Is that?
Yes, he interviewed with the Bears, but obviously he hasn't been named coach yet. So
gotcha.
I would probably go to the Bears before the Cowboys if I'm. Now the two favorites in my opinion. Number 2 favorite, I would say, is Kellen Moore. And this would be my preferred pick of the ones I think will get the job. Obviously I would love Sean McVay, but realistic.
Right. Yeah.
Kellen did really well this year in Philadelphia as the offensive coordinator. He has done well with Dak, leading the Cowboys to the number 1 offense in the NFL several times. People said he didn't do great with the Chargers. I thought he did excellent with the Chargers. Their offense was flying, just people kept getting hurt. They lost Keenan Allen, they lost Mike Williams, they lost Austin Eckler. Pretty much, I mean, he got hurt and was never the same. Yeah. So by the end of the season, was it Carson Stick was his starting quarterback for the Chargers? So I don't want to hear that he did a poor at Los Angeles. It just didn't quite work.
Right.
For me, his scheme in Dallas was a little clunky.
I kind of liked it.
they would score 2 straight, and then they'd go like 3 and out 3 straight possessions.
Yeah,
so it would click and then stop and then click. So it was a little clunky, but I mean, it worked.
Yeah.
And I think he's grown coaching in Philadelphia. And then, I mean, taking away a coordinator from the Eagles would be great.
Yeah.
He knows the system. He knows the locker room. He knows the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my favorite choice of these. But the one that's getting all the press coverage is Deion Primetime Sanders.
It's not going to happen. There's no way that happens.
Well, think about it. They both love the attention.
Yeah.
Both Jerry and Prime are loving every inch, every second of coverage that they're getting. He handles the media the same way Jerry does, and Jerry probably loves it. He's probably like, yeah, look at that guy go. It's awesome. His son has graduated. Both sons are gone from Colorado. So what's holding him at Colorado?
And I think he's got a house in Dallas.
It's only an $8 million buyout. It's a real cheap buyout, considering your team is worth $10 billion.
Yeah, from a business, Cowboys on TV, from that standpoint, it would be genius.
Yes.
Because that would be all that gets talked about for the next year, 6 months to a year, whatever. The whole time
Michael Irvin and Stephen A. Smith would be screaming at each other every week.
Do you have to draft? There would be no place for him there unless they drafted the kids.
You could trade up.
That's a big trade up. They think he's going to go like top 5. Supposedly he's going to the Giants.
It's a bit high to me.
Shadur. I think that's the thought process, is that he's.
I know, but I mean, he's a quarterback, and quarterbacks always go higher than I think they should.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. But either there or the Raiders. It would be extremely interesting, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that that persona and what he's doing right now is perfect for NIL college football. I think it fits that world. And he can enjoy that. I don't know how long he'll be there though. He'll probably miss his kids, man. He's been coaching his kids since he was like 8.
Yeah, family man now.
Yeah,
I agree with you. His charisma and personality fit really well in recruiting.
Yeah,
like that's Prime. Go get coached by Prime. Whereas
what he does at the university is it's hypey, which is what you need for that age.
Yeah, I agree. Hype doesn't work in the NFL.
No.
Results. That's why
you got to walk in there and talk to grown men. It's like, eesh.
Yeah, I mean, Saban didn't work in the NFL. So
right.
As much as I love Deion as a player and as a coach at Colorado, I don't know if grown men and professionals are going to respond to hype and motivational talks the same way that college kids do. So as much as fun as it would be, I don't see it working.
Same. Yeah.
But the highlights would be great.
Yeah, the clips would be amazing. The interviews, the interviews would get watched more than the games, probably.
It was. Well, who do you want to talk about first going to college? Do you want to talk about Penn State or Texas?
I think so. I only watched the fourth quarter of the Ohio State-Texas game, but the Penn State-Notre Dame game was incredible. Like, back and forth the entire game. It was both teams looked. It was an incredible game. It was probably the best college game I've watched all year, and just so happens Notre Dame came out on top. I think they deserved it, but I kind of wanted to see Penn State pull it out. To be honest, in the in game when I was watching it, I was like, I'd rather see Penn State win this game. But it was fantastic. Came down to the wire. And then the Ohio State, Texas, I'm just going to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Was I turned it on right when the fourth quarter was starting. It was 14-14, I think, at that time. And that strip sack, literally, the strip fumble where Ohio State take it back, that literally was the game changer. I mean,
it was the game ender.
It was the game ender, fourth down right there, and one of the best momentum shifts I've seen in a while. So One of the biggest plays I've seen that changed the game, it reminded me of, you remember when the Steelers, I think it might have been in the Super Bowl,
yes.
He took back that 99-yard. It was like right before halftime.
Yes.
He like punched it and took it back. I think it was Harrison took it for 99 yards.
He looked so tired at the end.
Like, oh yeah, he was so gassed. But I was like, that was one of the biggest, that defensive play down on the goal line that you take back the other way is like, well, the whole game just flipped. Like, it's over.
I mean, it's a shot to the heart. Like, it's right there on the doorstep, and then they take it the other way.
And there's nothing you can do about it. So, but 2 great games. What did you think? What were your? I know you had some thoughts on Ohio State.
So, my first one on the Penn State Notre Dame game, I thought for a minute, you know how I said I think Penn State somehow always finds a way to lose?
Yeah.
And they get the ball, and the game's tied late in the fourth quarter, and they got their timeouts, and I'm like, they might, and then they throw the pick across the bottom. And they're like, what do you do? What are you throwing that for? Not to pile on. I hate pile on college players, but that one was a great classic feeling college football game. I know they've modernized offenses, but it felt like hard hitting older school football, which I appreciated that.
That's a good way to say it. I think that was what was so enticing about it. It was like every play of the game was kind of hard hitting. Like, you're like, man, they're souped up. They're ready to go.
They're ready to go. On Texas losing, that gives me great joy.
Same.
As I'm sure it does you, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And for me, there were 3 plays that were the difference in the game. Really 2, well, 3. Let's say it's 3. Kind of like 2 with a half one. Mm-hmm. So, and the problem was not Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers, I think, actually played a really good game.
Yeah.
It was back and forth. He led his team well. The problem was the coaching. Like, how do you give up a screen pass when they late in the first half with like less than 20 seconds to go? They're either going to go kind of a deep out to try to get out of bounds, or if they have timeouts, they're going to try something deep across the middle, or they're going to go screen. It's the same 3 plays, basically, no matter what.
Yeah.
And they got beat on the screen. And the blockers didn't have anyone to block for the first 10 yards, it seemed like. They were like looking around. And so that was crazy to me that they defensively gave that up, because it was a tight game up to that point. Then the second big play, browser needs screen.
What should I do? I can't give you permission. Go for it.
Okay. The second one was when they got down at the end, and 1st and goal, of course, they get stuffed. And that's fine. But 2nd and goal is where I want to talk about. So 2nd and goal, they run the wide pitch. Here's the problem. Look how many blockers you have for Texas.
Yeah, 4 and 5.
I pulled this off of Bob Sturm's Substack, so I just want to give credit. 4 blockers blocking 5 defenders. That's a huge math problem. And so then you pitch it out wide, and he loses 7 yards.
Right.
Like, what do you like? You need to call timeout there. But what really, got me on that?
Change it to an ice, like up the middle.
Yeah, change the play, and that could be on the quarterback too. Change the play, so on. But what I wanted to show you was this earlier in the game. This is the play about Arch Manning. So earlier in the game, 4th down and 1. A tight end runs, goes back, goes under center. Hut. They actually snap it through his legs to Arch. Arch runs around the end. 1st down, gain of 8. No big deal. Yeah. Easy 1st down. This is what Florida did with Tebow in his freshman year. Whenever it was 4th down and 1, they needed a yard. Get your big running quarterback in there, and you have an extra blocker. So it doesn't matter if they know it's coming. But why don't you run Arch Manning, kind of like Urban Meyer did with Tebow in his freshman year? You had Chris Leak passing the ball, who was a fine college quarterback, just like Quinn Ewers.
Incredible.
And on short yardage, man, let the guy run. You know he can pass, but we all know it's running. He's big enough. He's going to get in. That, for me, is coaching, revive them to a powerhouse program, but coaching lost them the game this week.
I think that you're right on that, and that was also the commentators were saying that down at the in the red zone. They're like, because First play, I can't remember exactly the sequence. They ran it up the middle. They got stuffed. Then they did that pitch to the outside, lost 5 yards. And then the next play was the fumble, I believe. There's one more play in there. I just can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I can't rember. It might have been an incompletion.
Your first 2 plays, they were at the 2-yard line and then they were at the 1-yard line. And that would have been the time. Yeah, bring in Arch and just, run it up the gut again.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought he was going to get stuffed. Obviously that defense, they were stopping the running right there with Wisner, but
get the extra blocker. Like you snap it right to the quarterback. You get the extra blocker in there. It's a number. It's a math game.
Man, Ewers, sometimes he just looks, I don't even know how to explain it. It's almost like too calm. It's like he looks like there's no urgency almost. Like he's great, but there's this couple plays you're like, man, like spaz out a little bit or
do something.
Yeah, make your whatever. But they lost and I'm happy. And I think Ohio State's going to take it. I think Ohio State is, after that Michigan loss, they have started peaking. They beat the crap out of Tennessee. They beat Oregon. They thrashed Oregon. And then they closed against Texas after a really tight game. And I think that they're collectively, they got a pretty solid offense. And then they've got Caleb Downs on that defense. I think they can take Notre Dame.
Yeah, I agree with you. So here's who they've beaten so far this year. They have beaten number 4, Penn State. They have beaten number 7, Tennessee. They've beaten number 1, Oregon. They've beaten number 8, Indiana. They've beaten number 3, Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've played
the games they've won big as well. Like they beat the crap out of Indiana. I watched them play. I watched that game right before the Michigan game. The Michigan game was a shocker.
Yeah.
They were flat. I mean, it's obviously a rivalry game, but they couldn't even move the ball. But
Notre Dame, to their credit, they beat Texas A&M on the road. A good win. Yeah. They beat Penn State's really the only other wow, that's a great win. They took care of business against Indiana. Yeah. They beat Georgia with a backup quarterback. But Penn State's a good win. I mean, they're both good teams. They won the games. They deserve to be there.
Their defense is solid.
Their defense is really good. I think Ohio State will have a bit too much. I think it's going to be close. Probably in that 21-17, 20-17 type range of a game. A little lower scoring, hard hitting. And that's the game Notre Dame wants to play. And it'd be crazy if, after all those years of Notre Dame getting all the love in the polls and my dad and others claiming Notre Dame getting all this bias for them, that they would win a playoff where they have to win 3 games straight against top 10 teams.
What are your overall thoughts on the CFP this year?
I like it. I dig it. I mean, what you want in college football that makes it great is high leverage games.
Yeah.
And you didn't get a ton in the regular season, just due to scheduling. Like Texas A&M Texas was the one I really remember being like, whoa, this is a game. Yeah. It was a big letdown, obviously, but there were very few games where you're like, whoa, this game.
Maybe Texas, Georgia that first time, but I mean, Georgia's they stomped Texas.
They stomped them. I like the high leverage games. They've been good too. So even Texas,
these last couple this most recent round was really good.
The semifinals fantastic, but even the
first round, there's a couple games in there. You're like, all right,
first round was trash. I'm gonna be honest.
First round was
Arizona
trash.
State, Texas was great. Boise State couldn't match up, but with Penn State, but they've had good games, high leverage games.
8 teams might be enough, but
12. Yeah, 12's where we're at. They're not gonna shrink it.
They're definitely not gonna shrink it, but I wouldn't go any more than 12.
They're gonna go 16.
You think so?
I'm pretty sure because that's what all the other divisions do, if I'm not mistaken.
12 almost.
If I'm not mistaken.
You never know. They probably will. It'll probably end up being like 64. It's going to be an NCAA tournament before it's all said and done.
Just going to keep adding on. There's only like 180 teams that play football. And then it's like, whatever. All right, well. Hi.
My president is black. My Lambo blue. That's for your brother. If he made it.